Today is the most significant day in the history of the NCAA, and that is not an understatement, Fitz. Because of what is crumbling today, the model of the NCAA is coming down, and you can never put it back up again. The fact that the NCAA is really worthless after today is also a very significant moment. But many are arguing, good or bad. Many are arguing pro or con. But this day has been coming for a long time, and everyone seems prepared. The athletes seem prepared. We in the media have been covering it, as competitively and as aggressively as we can. The only people who don't seem to have a clue on July 1st, 2021, are the people who are in charge of this, and that's the NCAA. They waited till yesterday to finally put this thing into motion, and the one thing that they were hoping to avoid, and that being chaos on July 1st, is exactly what we're going to have today. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. It depends on where you are, and depending on which state you're in, will determine what kind of rules there are. The NCAA passed what would only be described as an emergency stopgap to give athletes in states who don't have NIL legislation something to adhere to. But at the end of all of this, it really doesn't matter whether there are rules or not, because no one is really in charge. Who is going to enforce these rules? It is going to be the wild, wild west. The athletes are going to make money, and the schools are going to be looking around like, what can we do about it? And the answer is nothing.
Paul, you hang out a little bit in Tuscaloosa around that Alabama program. You know Nick Saban very well, and Nick Saban has been someone who could adapt pretty much to any situation, and he has a strict policy in his program about social media and cell phones and things of that nature and communicating on the outside world. How would you think he's going to be adapting to this new situation with the NIL?
Well, I think all coaches are going to struggle, Keyshawn, but the one thing about Saban, I think he is, even though he's about to turn 70 years old, I think he's one of the most adaptable coaches in college football, and that's why he's so successful. Now, what's going to happen when he's got to practice at 2:30 on a Thursday afternoon and his star quarterback's at a car dealership? That's when I think it's going to come down to the reality. But I think coaches are going to have to be flexible, especially with social media, but they can't have any bend in terms of, hey, coach, I can't make it today because I'm doing a signing. If they let that happen, Keyshawn, you know the walls around that program will start crumbling.
Paul, let me ask you this. Here's my concern. Here's my only real concern with it, and you tell me your concern, is that I'm concerned that the athletes will start to focus in more on trying to figure out how to make money to monetize all the social media, all the different things, and lose focus on why they're at the universities to begin with. Do you think that could potentially happen?
Yes, I completely concur. I interviewed Mario Cristobal yesterday, the Oregon head coach, and he said that's something that we are sitting down and talking to the players every day about. But listen, if you even adults like us,
yes,
and I'll carefully include you into that group, Keyshawn. We're sitting here
social media stuff like that. I don't do it.
During a nationally televised radio and television show, and we're looking at our phones. We're checking whatever there is to check. I mean, we're adults. How about being 17 or 18 years old and you're about to go into practice and you get hit up that on Cameo you just got a request for $225. I mean that I think it's a real problem, but that's where coaches have to figure this thing out.
Here's Paul. I am not saying that there won't be a learning curve. Key, I'm not saying there won't be a learning curve. I customarily do my Instagram story post while I'm sitting here on the show. But I think the idea that student athletes age 18 to 22 will not adapt. I mean, they are the most pliable group. I also think it's a little bit asinine to think that kids are now I'm going to miss practice to be at a car dealership. What in the ridiculousness? You're going to be off this team if you keep playing around. Now, will there be some bad apples? Sure. But I have maintained since this became a conversation, Paul, instead of bucking it, do like we do with everything else. I had plenty of academic advisors. There was plenty of support staff around the team when I was a college basketball player. Add someone to the staff to help navigate. And you mentioned some of these companies that are working with institutions to kind of mediate player relationships and this branding piece. This is where we are. And we all know we can't turn back the hands of time at this point. But to me, lean into what these kids are capable of. They've grown up with these cell phones in their hands. Are they a distraction? Sure. But teach them best practices moving forward instead of being resistant.
Listen, I agree with almost everything you said, except I think here is the difference. And yeah, there are a lot of temptations as a college athlete. You guys experience it. I didn't. But money is different, and I think there's the idea of making money versus meeting your friend are two different things. And you may be right. After a while, the bud may be off the bloom here, and will calm down. I'm glad this is starting on July 1st as opposed to September 1st or later in the calendar. But I think for the most part, they will adapt. But that doesn't mean everyone else will, because there may be that opportunity. And yeah, I would agree the car dealership is a little overdone, but there are a lot of pressures from companies. And the one thing that I think that we haven't thought about very much, Keyshawn and everyone else, is the underbelly of this, the frustration of players who are not making what the man or woman next to them are bringing in.
There are only so many Zions.
We all try to make money, and I think there's going to be a lot of competitiveness there too.
All right, we're talking to Paul Finebaum on Keyshawn, J. Will, and Zubin. Jason Fitz in for Zubin, Monica McNutt in for J. Will. So, Paul, I want to at least quickly make sure people understand name, image, likeness does not mean the school will actually be paying any student. It's just allowing the student to monetize off of their name, image, likeness. And what the NCAA did was essentially, to your point earlier, was said, hey, this is a stopgap. We're going to let all 50 states do whatever all 50 states do. Is there some point in your mind where the NCAA will actually come out with a strong ruling of what they expect everybody to do rather than let it be a state-by-state issue?
You know the answer to that. The answer is no. We watched the NCAA last year at this very moment blink and go underground while we were trying to determine if there was going to be a college football season. Mark Emmert, who is the president of the NCAA, is going to go down in the history books as one of the most ineffective leaders of any organization, anytime, any place in this country. And that's covering a good bit of ground as we're heading toward the nation's birthday on Sunday. He has offered nothing, and he will offer nothing. He is an empty suit who continues to collect $4 or $5 million a year, frankly, by giving no opinions, because the people that really run college athletics, and those are the commissioners of the Power 5 conferences, they laugh at him behind his back. They're critical of him. They don't want him to do anything, because if he does something, it infringes on their power. They run the sport right now. So, and that's why he got a contract extension a couple of weeks ago, because nobody wants someone with a lot of firepower, ideas, creativity, and leadership skills to run this organization right now.
Real quick before we let you go, Paul, how much would Key have made during his career? Let's just get a number going
Give
here.
Reggie his Heisman back.
Key, let's put Key in today's world where we're talking about seven figures. Key would have been lucky to make $100, and here's why.
No social media.
Because Key would have ticked off every influencer out there. If the car dealership in Beverly Hills had called Key in, Key would have told that guy what to do. And finally, they would have said, no mas. We're not dealing with this guy. We may be giving up a lot of money, but Key makes no money under NIL.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus right now.